why do I keep, like, what is happening? This is driving him insane. And the dealer, he asked the dealer, he's like, what is this place? He says, I thought heaven would be a little different than this. He says, you're not in heaven. You're in hell.
Damn. You want to catch up first?
Yeah.
I want to hear about your trip.
Yeah, man. It was fun. So we got a cruise ship to out of Fort Lauderdale. We were supposed to go to Key West. But the weather was so bad in Key West that we diverted to this little island called like Bimini. I think that's what it's called. It's like how do you describe it? It's like the size of like a small like town. Like that's how little the island is. You can pretty much walk it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Got to check that out a little bit. What's crazy is when we diverted from Key West, where we were originally supposed to go because of weather, after the trip, we saw some TikToks of this Carnival cruise line that didn't divert.
Yeah.
Bro.
No.
It was like, I don't know, they were somewhere on the ship and all of the rooms were flooding.
No.
Like the boat was taking on water.
Bro.
How scary would that be?
Dude, your captain made the right call.
Oh yeah, dude. The guy is a G. He has like a like shaved head, like, like fucking, he looks like he was like in charge of like a naval fleet at one point. That's how this dude looked. Like of some like third world country, like, Navy. And yeah, he was like, we're not doing that. He said the weather is absolutely terrible. We are not going to Key West, is what he said over the intercom.
Wow.
So.
See, that's coming from experience. He knows what can go wrong, dude.
Yeah, he's like, nah, not on this ship. So yeah, we diverted out of there, and then we ended up going to Nassau, and it was pretty cool, man. That's a nice little island. Spent the day at a resort there. Baha Mar is the name of the resort. Super nice, dude. Like, I'm actually thinking about planning another trip just to that resort, because they have a water park built into it.
Sick.
Dude, it was so much fun.
Sick.
Like, awesome lazy river, like really cool slides. They had one that you like get in a capsule and it drops you straight down, like one of those type of slides.
I've seen those. Those are sick.
Yeah, so that stuff was fun. The cruise is cool. Have you ever been on one?
No. I've always wanted to.
So, like, the convenience is one of the best parts of it. You just have like everything at your disposal. But like, I noticed after like day 3, you kind of just get bored of all of it.
See, that's what I thought would happen. Yeah.
So as long as you got a lot of like stops planned, then it's pretty fun. But if I was just at sea for a long time and we didn't really port anywhere, it would get old fast.
Yeah, I can see that.
But no, it was a good trip. We brought 22 people there.
Holy crap.
Yeah, we covered the cost for most of it. Some of them brought +1s. And yeah, but it was a good time. Yeah.
Damn. So your brokerage covered these for top producers?
Yeah. Somewhere around like $30,000 it costs us.
Ooh. That's not cheap.
No, but it's an incentivization trip, so our top producers qualified for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we allocate, a certain amount per month, projecting on how many you think we're going to take, so it's pretty good. It works out.
What's the metrics to hit that in order to go?
Yeah, so if you're on our team, we take splits off of each closing, so we get a little more profit off those agents. But they have to earn $100,000 minimum of gross commission income. So you hit that 6-figure mark, you're on the trip. And then we have agents that pay a flat fee into the office. And so if they close 36 or more deals, then they qualify for the trip as well.
Wow. It's a lot of deals to close.
Yeah, no, they got to be moving at a pretty good clip. But for the agents that were at other brokerages, other flat fee companies, or other offices, they're excited to have that as an option, because usually they don't really get celebrated for their success, or they don't really think they're doing that well. When 36 deals, you're closing about 3 a month. That's a good amount of volume.
That's a lot of volume, dude.
A lot of work. So we try to we try to take care of those guys. And get them excited. And part of it too, we do it in March, and just kind of like a little insider, pro tip for like managing an office and culture and stuff. We like to have the trip planned like kind of towards the end of Q1.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they start ramping up their production around that time. And if an agent was like make a switch or something, they'd probably hold off until they do the trip and get some deals under contract. And then they're already in the weeds of production.
With it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a little bit of that's built in there, but usually people don't make the decision to stay just because of a trip, you know? So
Right.
I think we're doing a good job with just maintaining culture.
I mean, I think they call that the Golden Handcuff, right?
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
have you heard that term before?
yeah, I have. What's your explanation on that?
So I was told it's typically in finance, in banks, and Wall Street. Basically, what they'll do is they'll pay them a certain amount for a long period of time, and they want these people to stay for a long time in their company. And so what they'll do is maybe when you join the company, you get stock, but those stocks don't vest or activate until 3 to 5 years. And then you're getting a raise and you're getting bonuses every year. So you don't want to leave before your quarterly bonus. It's like, my bonus is in 90 days or 30 days. Maybe I should stay. And then it's like, well, I just got my PTO package. Maybe I should see that out. And then what'll happen is you start elevating your lifestyle. You buy the house, you get the kids, you get the dogs, you got the 2 car payments, you got private school. And now all of these things, now you're looking at a monthly payment. You're spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month just to live, just to survive. And once you have that comfort, you don't want to go back. You don't want to let your housekeeper go. You don't want to get rid of the gardener. You don't want to be out there doing that. You may as well just stay with Big Wall Street and keep making that money.
Oh,
so
dude,
they're golden handcuffs.
Yeah, it's almost like the analogy of like you're the wardener and the prison, or you're the warden and the prison. You know,
that's a nice
prisoner.
one.
Yeah, like I think about that as like, you know, real estate agents or anybody that's in like a high commission job where like big paydays when you close a transaction. If you get, you know, too ahead of yourself and you get all those reoccurring monthly expenses, the nice car, the nice house, you know, all the credit cards, all that stuff, you're locked in, dude. You can't get out of that production.
No,
and so
you have
just
to maintain.
like forever trapped. You know who's like the worst at that?
Huh.
Are mortgage lenders.
Really? How come?
Like at least the ones that I've noticed that are highly in production, they never step out of that role of being a loan officer. They just stay as an LO forever because, you know, if they get in a good production rhythm where they got a bunch of agents sending them deals and whatnot, you make a decent income. Like I had a lender when I was first in production. We gave him like 25 refinances in 1 month.
Wow.
And you know, instead of like investing that into like rental properties or whatever, he went and bought a Lamborghini. So it's like so any lender I have working for me, I want them to have like a lot of bad habits in terms of like having nice stuff.
Yeah.
Because they get accustomed to that.
Yeah, they got to work for it, dude. Yeah,
they got to
work
hard.
Rental properties. Yeah, you're like, hey man, I can chill. I don't need the hustle.
Yeah, but dude, when you just love blowing money on boats and cars and those kind of things, like that's the lifestyle you don't want to quit.
No, dude. I think I told you I started to get into that for a little bit.
Oh no.
Did I tell you this?
I think you mentioned you had like a couple boats at one point.
Bro,
is that part of it?
Yeah, so I have like 2 cars. I was about to buy a motorcycle, Tesla, bought a speedboat, bought a power boat, stuck it in the slip at the harbor, was paying monthly fees on that. Paid the boat in cash fully, which is nice. Then I was like, well, you know, I want to go sailing. My power boat, you know, I got to put gas in it. It's gas powered. You know what's cool is wind power. So I bought a sailboat, bought a 40-foot, whatchamacallit. Dude, didn't know how to sail for the life of me. Like, almost wrecked a harbor, dude. Like, I'm coming in, like, hot, bro. In the engine, they usually only have this little 2-horsepower engine just to get around.
A little prop propeller, yeah.
Yeah, dude. And I'm, like, coming in hot off the wind, and, like, the sails are still up. And I'm, like, 30 feet from other boats.
Oh, no.
Bro, yeah, I was not. They'll let anybody sail. You can buy a sailboat and set it apart on the 7 seas. There's no restrictions, dude. So, Yeah, and then I had the luxury penthouse. I had the whole thing. And this was 2022 and I was like, "Man, I really need to spend my money on smarter things." And so got rid of the boats, rented out the penthouse, moved into like a cute little rental. And my rent is a fifth of what my mortgage payment was. And now the penthouse is covered. And so, dude, yeah, I've started being smarter and spending less money. And because of it, I have way more capital, dude. I've got a lot more greenbacks in my account, which is nice.
Dude, yeah, it's so nice to be able to just splurge, especially like us, like coming from nothing,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I got it like that. Anybody wants to do something, I got it. Let's roll. Want to hit the boat? Let's do it. Might as well. But like, there's power in saying no to those things, and then really being disciplined with yourself. Like, yeah, I noticed on this cruise trip, I asked myself this question. I'm like, would it be possible just to live on a cruise ship? Like, just dude,
Go on. Go on.
yeah. And so think about like the cost of doing that. It's not that expensive. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure, like, my cruise, we went on a 5-day, 4-night. It was like $1,300 or something like that.
Mhm.
And so,
Okay.
like, you could get
For one or two
30-day
people?
cruises for one person.
Okay.
And so you could get like a 30-day cruise for like $4,000. Like it's drastically cheaper, like the longer duration. It's just pretty much like you're there. And if you think about it, like your quality of life is like top tier because they have all the built-in luxuries. Like people go on a cruise to experience like the lavish life.
Yeah.
Like endless meals, all you can eat buffets, dude. Ice cream on tap at every corner. Like it's so nice.
Wow.
Like you can always
Wow.
get you like a chocolate ice cream cone. And if you're getting bored of chocolate, they got strawberry. Like you got options. And
Yeah.
like they got a comedian on there, they got movie theaters, they got a casino, they got all these nice shops, like everything you want. You poured into nice towns, like you're living the dream, like you're living the good life for $5,000 to $6,000 a month. And like that, like, and so I was thinking, I'm like, would I ever get tired of that? And I think the answer is yes. I'd probably get bored of it after like the first month. You just get having everything at your disposal. And so I feel like treating yourself is only rewarding for so long, and then you just get used to it. Like you almost become numb.
It raises that baseline. Now this is expectation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You just get bored of it. And I think there's a lot of fun in like the hard work and grind and and I think that's why I feel like that's why successful people gamble, is because they're so used to winning that like they get no real fulfillment out of it. But dude, when you're on that blackjack table and you're on a run and then, you get crushed and you're down like big and then you fight your way back up, that's like a micro moment of like a lifetime of in business, those highs and lows real fast, quick hit. And so, there's a little bit of that involved with just like operating as an entrepreneur and those kind of things. And yeah, do you just get burnt out? There was this story I heard.
Wait, let me add to that real quick.
Yeah.
I think you're right, because one thing I've learned about you and me both is we enjoy the misery. Like, for example, last night, so I use MyFitnessPal to track all of my macros, my food, my calorie intake. And I have a little scale at home, a food scale, and I'll weigh out the food and I'll track so last night I was cutting myself some sharp white cheddar cheese, and cheese has a lot of calories, dude. I can only have 2,600 calories a day. I only had like 200 calories left. And so I like cut myself 35 grams of this cheese, and it was 150 calories. And then between that, my little gummy packet, that's all I could have. So I was like sitting at the table with like a tiny little morsel of cheese. And I was just like sitting there and I was like, this is delicious. And I'm like drinking my protein chocolate milk, low sugar. And dude, I'm just purposely restricting myself from having anything amazing. And I'm so happy, bro. I'm just so happy being miserable. And Kristen was like, "Can I have a bite of your cheese?" I was like, "No, absolutely not. This is exactly 150 grams or calories. You go get your own. I'll cut you some if you want." She's like, "No, that's fine." And so just being in the shit, there's something about it that's just funny and fun.
I mean, dude, that's where all the fun stories come from.
Yes.
All of that, dude, when you're down on your luck, when you're like getting just kicked in the nuts, and like you feel it and you're
Yeah.
just in it and you're like, oh, it's so miserable. But like when you get out of that, you look
It's
back
great.
and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that was wild. I'm glad we survived, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I
It's
feel
so
that.
true. Yeah, we call that, like in the military, this expression that just lived with me is like, embrace the suck.
Mm.
Like you just embrace it. There's nothing you can do about it. You're in the shit. Just fucking bask in it. Just like, yeah, just own it. I'm in it.
Bask.
I'm in it.
Love
I'm
that.
in it. You know, and just have a good attitude about it. And like, okay, so the story was, this guy, he died, right? Passed away. And he's like in this like,
what a start to a story.
yeah, you know, okay, he passed away, so he's dead. And he's in this place. He arrives in this place, and it's like he's at a casino, and he has like all these beautiful women around him, and he's, you know, in this like really amazing place. He's like, oh my gosh, you know, this is great. This is what it's like, you know, after you die. And he goes to the casino, and he's playing, and dude, every hand he's just freaking crushing it. Win. You know, he's playing blackjack. He's getting 21 every time, and he just can't lose. And he's like, this is so fun. And he goes up to the penthouse, has the best night of his life, all this stuff, and then shows up the next day. Same thing. Winning, never losing, like never loses a hand. And then after like a week, he's like, what's going on here? Like, why do I keep, like, what is happening? You know, he's like in a frenzy, like this is driving him insane. And the dealer, you know, he asks the dealer, he's like, what is this place? He says, you know, I thought heaven would be a little different than this. He says, you're not in heaven. You're in hell.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's good. That's a great story.
Bro, you just, everything you want is a yes. It's always a yes. The girls, it's a yes. You want this, yes. You just become sick of it. There's nothing to pursue. There's no chase. There's no risk or reward. It's all just exactly what you want, and there's no way out of it. You're stuck forever.
No, thank you, dude. No, thank you.
And that would be me on a cruise. It's always yes. It's always yes. It's like, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, that is a great story. That's a parable right there, if I've ever heard one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
Let me throw something into that, because I was talking to my buddy the other day, and we're looking at doing this big real estate investment purchase. And we're trying to buy this 100+ unit apartment building. Kind of close to you, believe it or not. And we might get the offer accepted. And our payout is, if it all works out, we'll make about $250,000 up front. Okay. And then we'll get paid between years 1 and 3. We'll make about $50,000 to $150,000 of cash flow every year. So it's a solid investment. It's a great investment. Yeah. And I was talking with my buddy, and I was like, man, that fat cash up front, it'd be nice. Sure, I'll take it. And obviously I want to upgrade my lifestyle at some point and have the private planes. That's the only thing I really care about, by the way, is having a couple staff to do all of my menial things like that I don't want to do and that they are good at, like gardening. I want to have a garden, but I'm not a great gardener. But I want to have a great garden. But I don't want to spend the time to have a great garden. So I want to have a gardener. And so I want to have a couple staff, and I want to have a plane, because I want to travel without all the hassle. And but I want all the other problems. And anyway, we're talking, and I was like, this $250,000, it's kind of funny because I don't even need it. Like, it's not going to change my lifestyle. There's nothing I need to spend money on. Sure, it'd be nice to have some reserves, whatever. But I don't even need this. I just want to play the game. I just want a seat at the table, dude. I want my chips in. I'm not even worried about how many chips I'm making. I just want to keep getting hands, bro. Yeah. And that's all I want. And I'm just here for the game itself. And I want to play the game with my friends, and that's all I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I love that. That's the fun of it, man. It's exciting when you can get it. Yeah, you just got to like being engaged in something, because I took a little bit of time to myself. Like over the past few years, I've been spending my off hours out of the office just really vegging, chilling, just kind of like keeping to myself in a way. And I kind of look back at all the experiences I had, and it's just like, that was nice. Like I could say like, oh, that was nice, I did that. But I think overall you're left with is just the feeling you have towards like what you've accomplished. And if you haven't accomplished much, like I'm thinking back and I'm like, was that really worth it? You know? Because all the fun stories that I would tell and all these things were all from like in the grind or like having your chips in on something.
Yeah.
You know, there's no fun story with like, yeah, I was just laying around my house. You know?
No, never.
No, unless like a tornado hits.
Yeah.
Like that's a crazy story now.
That's
But
a
like
crazy
if you're just like that, you know, person just straight up not doing anything, like there's nothing there that is worth like noting, really.
I feel that. I think about high climbing. Whenever people ask about it, I share the stories of how I almost went bankrupt, how COVID hit, how like I got this warehouse and it was just the dirtiest, grungiest, worst place in the world. And my first reaction was perfect. I'll take it. And like those are all the stories I share. But when I share like, hey, I've got this super successful rock climbing gym that's just pumping off cash and everybody's happy, it's like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
Everybody wants that punchline of like, yeah, but I lost it all. You know, that's like
that's what makes stakes, dude. Having some stakes it's what it's about.
Yeah, it's such like a weird reality to be in, you know? Like always having something that could just take you out. Like the threat of something that could just like stop whatever progress you're making kind of makes it fun because you stay in it, you know?
Yeah.
It brings life to you. They always say people are happier when they're working.
Dude, know? I believe that. I could really see that.
And I feel like for me too, like procrastination like plagues me a lot of the times. And I just know deep down that like I could do incredible work, but it's just that mental hurdle of trying to like just say, I'd rather play video games, you know, or just default to something like nice and easy. Like kind of when you get a little bit tired and you want to take a nap, but you know if you just got up and went to the gym, you'd probably feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, like those little micro decisions, man, they compound. And I try to take inventory of that every time I have a fleeting thought of like, I'll take it easy. Because dude, when I got my checklist down and I'm like pumping through the things I know I need to get done and I'm crossing it off and all of that, like I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm getting that dopamine hit that I'm searching for and doing things that are easy. Because like I was addicted to this game on my phone called Clash Royale. I don't know if you ever played it. It's pretty good. It's fast paced. It's a 3-minute game. Like you collect these cards and they battle each other. You try to take out their towers. It's a thing. And I'll find myself playing it. And then after I'm done, I'm like, does this matter? Like, did any of this matter? I'm just literally killing time, you know? And have you ever like really thought about how limited our time is and how much and how little you remember of the moments you have? So, okay.
That last line hit me. Keep going.
So I think about this where it's like us having this conversation, right? We're having a conversation. It's like we're sharing a moment together and we're documenting it so we can look back on it. But think about those moments that you had like with you and Kristen about the cheese, you know? But like, what were the conversations you were having before that? Or like the moments you were sharing after that, like in the elevator, at the store and all that stuff. And those moments where you're kind of around each other. Well, think you were doing that a year ago. Do you remember what you were saying? What happened? What occurred? What you were wearing? Like, dude, none of that matters then. Like, because you're not going to remember it in the future. So it's like, but what you do remember is the feeling you had and like kind of, you know, that I think anchors in that memory. But like because I was watching some people that like have an unfortunate event where maybe they get in a car wreck or something and they're a completely different person. And how the individual probably doesn't understand what happened to them because maybe their memory's wiped out or something like that. And it's like, wow, they're in a whole new universe now. Like their past like accomplishments and everything, they can't comprehend that. And so it's just this whole little thing of like really trying to be intentional with your time because it is very limited. And it's so easy just to get sucked into the things that like feel good in the moment, but you're not really accomplishing anything. Or like getting upset. Like imagine, you know, like a little petty argument you have that doesn't really matter. And like a year later, you don't really remember the argument, but you remember the feeling sometimes, you know? And so I try to like remember that like what's happening in the moment, the things I want to nitpick aren't going to matter because I'm not going to remember them. because I know that because I don't remember the ones in the past. So I've just been kind of
Yeah.
doing this like self-reflection thing of just trying to be more present. I don't know. Yeah. Edibles have been helping me really connect a lot of dots. If you can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, it kind of reminds me of something that I heard the other day, which is how our perspective, how we assign value to these arbitrary numbers or figures, and then we allow our mood and happiness to depend on them. For example, let's say you had a goal to run a 6-minute mile, and you're like, all right, today I'm going to do it. And you wake up, you run this mile, and it's 6:04. And now you're like mad at yourself. It's like, my goal was 6. Now I'm not happy about it. So let's say it was 5 seconds difference, 5:59. Now you're happy. And it's like, well, really, nothing's changed. On the only thing that's actually changing is your viewpoint of good or bad. And the way I really, this sunk in the other day because in my software company, CMA Every Day, I read online from a SEO guru, I think his name is Neil, saying that when you have a sales company, you want to spend 10% of your revenue, 10% of every dollar on your sales team, on your sales staff. And so I had this number in my head. I was like, okay, if we earn $100, I need to spend $10 on a sales team. Cool, good to know. And then we were going through and we ended up making an offer to a sales guy. He accepted it. And as we were looking back, I realized that we're spending about 20% on our sales team. And so all of a sudden, I wasn't mad, but I was like, oh, that sucks. I'm going to have to fix that in the future. That's an issue, blah, blah, blah. And I was a little, call it upset. And so my whole mood was like, oh, damn, I made a mistake. And then I start Googling and researching a little bit more, and I find that most companies actually spend 20 to 30% of every dollar, $100, on a sales team. And so within a span of 10 minutes, I go from I made a mistake to let me check it to, oh, we're actually spending on the low end. Oh, this is really good. Nice. Okay. And so my feeling changed, but nothing in my reality did. And so by setting these arbitrary metrics and holding our feelings assigned to them, we're just like letting the course of nature choose our feelings rather than just saying, you know what, I'm going to feel great and I'm just going to make good decisions with the knowledge I have. And it should have been, oh, 10% is the goal. Okay, I'm at 20%. Let me work towards it. Oh, I'm at 20% now. Oh, okay, cool. Keep it there. And like no feeling should ever have been involved in that process. But of course it is because we're human.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's so crazy that like I used to be plagued with that, with prior beliefs dictating my current reality.
Ooh, go on.
You know? And so for you, you ingrained it in yourself very quickly that your belief is that your organization shouldn't be paying more than 10% towards your employees or whoever. And then presented with new information, you change your mind. And so like, how many of those decisions are we guiding ourselves with that are probably the wrong information?
Yeah.
I think I spent the better part of like 2014 to 2017 not being super productive outwardly towards business. I mean, I was taking a lot of action and stuff, but I was rewiring my beliefs and how I associate my feelings towards like things that are happening in my life. And I started to try to only take advice from people that were doing what I wanted to do already and that I would trade places with. And a lot of my guiding beliefs were from, maybe my parents inadvertently through like growing up, or, friends or other people, that just give you random advice or, whatever. So it's always good to really fact check yourself, especially if you notice you're having like an adverse reaction towards something. Like if you're going to get upset or angry, like you hit that like higher level of emotion where you're like, oh, fuck. That's where, you might need to just dial it back and say, let me really dig into this. And so what caused you to research it some more? Were you like, no, this can't be right? Because you were probably examining your business like, it feels right. Like, did it feel right paying them that much with the margins? but like the data you were
Yeah.
reading was
Yeah,
contradicting that.
the number I was paying felt, I was like, that doesn't seem like unreasonable pay for someone in this position. Let me just look it up again. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's true, man. That's yeah. You got to do that every now and then. I don't know. I hate sitting with negative emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, so I do it so much that I avoid it before it shows up. Like, it sounds crazy, but I just have this way of processing stuff where I don't get upset at it.
Yeah.
I just kind of just in my head, I evaluate it, and then I pretty much just throw an optimistic lens on it, and I say it's going to be all good.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you and I both are like that. Even when we were grinding, I don't think
Mhm.
any of us ever complained other than it was like, oh, I didn't get it. Okay, next one. Cool, let's do it.
Mhm.
And that was it.
Yeah. I think the only thing I complained about was the heat in Arizona when I was like door knocking. that was intense.
Yeah.
But it was more just like it was just fun doing it. It
Yeah.
was like I guess if you are overpaying your employees, I guess another lens to look at it through is we'll go make some more money.
Yeah.
Increase them margins, bro. Like let's bring us more revenue and make that 10
Make it up
20
there.
shrink to 10. Yeah, just double your income and then you'll be in the 10% range.
Right. In
Yeah.
some capacity, yeah. Well, what's funny? So this same employee, we were negotiating his pay, and halfway through the negotiations, he says, "I actually don't want to be commission only. I want a base salary." And we're like, okay, that kind of changes things. And during the time, we were initially offering him a 1% stake in the company because he asked for it and he was kind of pushing it. And I was like, okay, if I can get away with saving some money now in the company, paying out a bigger chunk later, that's worth it to us now because we're in growth mode. And so I offered him 1% stake, and then he turned around and decided to trade it for a base salary, so $2,000 a month, but no 1% stake. And I was like, fine, that's okay. And I was laughing to myself because it's like my intentions with this company are far greater than the two other successful companies I've started. And there's no reason for him to feel like that 1% is really ever going to be worth a lot. But in my head, I know that this company is going to be doing about 30 million of revenue every year. So 1%, that's 300,000 a year. And if we ever go to sell at a 5x EBITDA, and if we ever sell for 100, 150 million, he'd be making a million, 150, 1.5 million payout after the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And I feel confident about that I can create that and get that there. I believe in the product. But he doesn't necessarily know that I've done this twice, and this will be the third time I've done it. And I was laughing. I was like, man, though, at what point, though, do you, just like from my perspective, I think he's making a bad business decision, and he's going to regret this in the next couple of years, potentially. It could all crash and burn, so he could be right, but I feel confident. Yeah. Just like I have the perspective that he's making a bad decision on this, and he's going to kick himself in the butt in the future. What decisions am I making that to somebody else, I am making a bad decision? Because there definitely are decisions. Like there's got to be a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And the only thing is, just like he's unaware of it, I am unaware of it. It's crazy to think about, huh?
Yeah, it's so true. I guess because in our privileged position we put ourselves in, right? Where we're kind of the shot callers. We're the people up top that kind of running the ship. How do you gain that perspective of knowing if you're going in the right direction? And that's where I think we've talked about before that there's really no blueprint to this. Like there is, but there isn't. And the reason why there isn't is because each business has its own unique complexities. And there's also very variable factors in there, such as like, how do I handle, big challenging decisions? And, what do I feel is important right now? And how disciplined is the leader of the business? And those kind of things. And so I guess it's like you could be shooting yourself in the foot the entire time. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, mentorship, conversations, like finding somebody who's done it, like getting in a group setting where you can kind of openly discuss these things. But who's truly going to be willing to sit down with you and examine your business with a fine-tooth comb just like you would?
Mhm.
And I guess that's where you
Nobody.
just gotta build your own little manual on that of like checks and balances. And I guess if you're moving in the right direction of profit and you set a big goal of like, we're going to hit that 5x, multiplier of an evaluation,
Mhm.
you can manage that pretty well with just putting in the key things. But really, yeah, are you doing the right things? We've talked about this with even just being in sales. We're like, I don't know if this is the right vehicle for us to really do the things that we feel like we could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that came from us just conversating and whatnot, or from other people.
To your point, I find that I learn a lot just by discussing things I already know with somebody like you.
Mhm.
Just by talking through things, I'll have more insights on it and I'll see it from different angles because you might ask questions I've never thought about. Or even if you don't, we might just come to another agreement or a perspective, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. And and I always thought to this myself whenever I first got into real estate. I was trying to do the investing thing, and my
Mhm.
mentor just seemed so far ahead of me. And I was like, I had this moment where I was thinking, I'm like, he doesn't know what this is like. Like he hasn't been here before. Like that was kind of my feeling of like, man, this is so difficult. But then when I got my first deal and all that stuff, and they helped me through it, I was on a long walk with Kristen, and we were kind of discussing it, and it occurred to me, I'm like, this is the path. Like my mentor has been in this exact position before. Like had
Yeah.
to have, like, because it's just like, this is what I'm on. I'm taking their advice and guidance. Like I just have to, how fast can I get through this phase? And so when I applied that thinking to it, it just changed my outlook on everything. Like everything's a stepping stone to the next level. And
Mhm.
so how long are you going to maintain that level is based on, I guess, the pressure you're applying to yourself, whether that's internally or externally, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just good to just have that, I guess, reassurance of knowing that you're not special in your experiences.
Hmm.
Like you're not so special in
Yeah.
feeling this
No.
way. Like,
Right. Right.
I think that's just the price to pay in being in business for yourself or trying something new. And so when I look at my buddies that are doing really well with like maybe a coaching platform or investing in like, crypto or running different things or businesses, they've at some phase been exactly where I'm at, income wise, like experiencing where I'm at.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they just got through it faster or maybe it took them just as long. Who knows? But you can't really judge yourself too hard, because I feel like that's where a lot of people get stuck, is they're judging and comparing, and they say
Yeah.
comparison is the thief of joy. And so it's like if you're constantly comparing, then you're just taking whatever little bit you can celebrate away from yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So with
Well,
that in mind, but you don't want to get stuck. You don't want to get
no,
stuck
no, certainly not.
either.
Well, what's kind of funny is I was thinking this morning about just us doing this podcast, and I thought even if we don't achieve success, whatever that means with this podcast, and don't build a great brand with it, whatever, it's still pretty cool that for an hour a week, you and I just get to bro down, catch up, talk business, talk shop, and have a good time.
Yeah,
And it's like, and I thought to myself, even if the podcast wasn't there, and especially if this was in person, I'd be happy to do this anyway. Yeah.
dude, same.
Yeah. And
Dude,
it's like, all
100%
right,
same.
well, knowing that, why even record it? It's like, well, there is a certain benefit and it's fun. Like you said, it's fun to have that thing that we're working towards. We're growing it from nothing to something. And that just adds an extra layer of basically dopamine to us hanging out. And so there is that memory and we can look back and we can show the proof of what we've done rather than just we're just hanging out.
Yeah, dude, it's so true. I was reading something today and it says that like it's the rush that kills everybody. Like the rush
Oh,
to get the result kills.
yeah.
And just knowing that if you just systematically go through the steps and you apply a little bit of patience, and you just come to the conclusion that it's probably a 2-year horizon before you get what you think you're going to get right now, you're going to
Mhm.
have a much better experience, and you're probably going to work harder on it.
Mm.
Knowing that that's the time that puts it in perspective. And we've had that discussion too with growing this. And there's, like you said, there's other benefits to this than the outcome, than like reaching the destination.
Yeah.
Because it's the difference between flying somewhere versus driving somewhere. Like okay, what stories can you share flying? It's like, oh, TSA, this and that. And you only talk about like, oh, I left this in my bag. They confiscated it, like a little bit of that. And then you're on the airplane. If it's a smooth flight, you say, oh, it was a great flight. If there's turbulence, you're like, dude, that was nuts. Like a little bit of storytelling right there, but you're at the destination within a couple hours. Boom, you're there. But dude, if you take a road trip, there's so many more stories, so much more that can happen. And like, that's where a lot of the fun comes through. And so, you know, with this, the podcast, like, dude, it's a road trip. We're road tripping it.
We're road tripping, dude. That's great.
Like,
I love that, dude. We're chasing the story.
Yeah. And so like the thing is that like the first leg of a road trip isn't that exciting. Like you get in the car, you know, you make it to the gas station, you get your snacks, your drinks, make sure, you know, you got everything you need, sunflower seeds, beef jerky, and you start driving and you're kind of just waking up the first, you know, few hours.
Right.
You know, both, you know, put on a little bit of music or something. You're just both, you know, people are just in their own zone, cruising. Not really talking that much. And then you make your first stop and you're like, oh, wow, let's check this place out. And then something happens. And then now you're feeling full of energy. And then like, you know, things just start happening. And that's where the fun begins.
Yeah. I love that, dude. Yeah. And I think I've heard a lot of podcasters say the fun begins after the first 21 episodes because 99% of people don't make it there.
There we go.
Yeah. So I always think to myself, I'm like, all right, we've posted 6 or 7 now. We have to get to 21 before we even do anything different.
Yeah, I agree. Like, well, think about like any good movie or whatever, like Dumb and Dumber, dude.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. And like the whole like sequence of events from like, you know, their parakeet getting its head chopped off to them saying they got to deliver this bag to Aspen and they're driving the wrong way. They sell the van. They're, you know, riding a moped, like all of that stuff, dude. It's like the journey is the fun part. So, dude, if we just plop down and just like hit success right off the bat, we would be chasing another thing, you know? And so there's a lot to be said for just enjoying like just this part of it. Yeah. And whatever comes. We know where we're heading. And we're kind of like the early Voyagers in your sailboat. You know, like, I think that's the way we need to go, Devin. Like, point the sails that way. Like, and you don't know where you're gonna end up. You might hit a current and you're just on the other shoreline, but you thought you met a new country. Yeah. Like I had all these realizations when I was on this boat, and I'm like, I'm looking at the ocean, and I'm just in like the Bahamas, you know. Yeah. And I'm like, how the hell did they know where they were going when they left Europe? Dude,
they didn't. They thought Christopher Columbus thought he was in India. That's why Native Americans are called Indians.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And that's such a long ride. Like, dude, just months at sea, just getting smashed.
Years, dude. It's crazy.
Oh, and like they just arrive somewhere and there's these people and they like, let's try to talk to them. I don't know what they're saying. I think we're on a different planet. And then they start killing each other and giving each other diseases and like, madness ensues.
Dude, that had to have been fun, dude. I would if we were back then, bro, I'm almost certain we would have been Voyagers. Probably would have died, but we would have tried.
Yeah. Somebody would have caught like gangrene or scabies or something. Yeah. Got bit by a rat. And I'm like, dude, I got to take my leg off. I'm going to have a peg leg, bro. Like, just saw it off. I don't care. Like,
dude, that's great. I recently learned, I think Lewis and Clark were only like 28, 29 when they came down and came through Canada or whatever they did. Wow. It's like, dude, they're our age. They were just some dudes who were like, let's go check this thing out. And that's all it was.
Dude, that's wild. When I was younger, we had this creek that went through my neighborhood and it led out to like a little bit bigger river, but it was still small. And we'd do float trips and we'd go by, I'd convince my mom to take me to Walmart and we go buy an inflatable raft and we'd have her drop us off like 5 miles up the river and then we'd float in it all day. Dude, it would take all day to go like 5 miles. Yeah. And like, so I think that element of us like exploring is like ingrained in our DNA. Yeah. But man, it's like, how do you know you're doing the right thing back then?
Yeah. Whew.
You don't know where you're going. Like some of these rivers wind, dude. They kind of like, you could be going nowhere.
Yeah.
And something else I was thinking is like, how many people, like we only know the notable figures that have like helped shape our reality. Think about like Christopher Columbus and these people, like what other explorers were out there that actually probably discovered a lot more, but they didn't know how to document it. They weren't like the elite, the people that knew how to write, that knew how to like tell a story, that knew how to like share a message.
Just some dude with a shovel, and he was just digging, and he discovered something crazy. Yeah.
And he didn't know how to articulate it to them. And then, I go to Devin, I'm like, Devin, I discovered this. And you're like, no, I discovered it. And I discovered it because
Thomas Edison. Yeah.
because I know how to articulate this message better than you. And then you start telling the story of how it happened. You're like, I don't like that story. I'm going to write my own story. Yeah. And then that's what's published. Like, you couldn't fact check people back then.
Yeah. Dude, history is written by the winners. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you lose a war, dude, no one's ever going to remember what you said. No, you don't get to write the story.
No, yeah. Man, I was even thinking too, like a little bit about like, even just like the Bible and those kind of things, like these stories, like, there's like the Quran, the Bible, like all these different ones. And they all have different variations of how they went down, right? Each religion has its own thing. And I'm like, well, what if somebody else had an experience that was much greater, much more of like, they really figured it out. They're like, this is God, this is Jesus, like, this is it. And they don't know, like, they're illiterate. They don't know how to, like, they can't share that experience. And then, so like, I don't really know much about like the Bible, all that stuff. Like, I grew up religious a little bit. We go to church on Sundays sometimes and all that stuff. But like the King James version of the Bible, like, I'm just like, King James just jacked it, bro. Like, it was probably some fucking, guy that really had the story dialed down, saw like the burning bush and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And somebody went and said, no, I'm going to write it my way. Like, how much of that has existed in the past? That dictates our current reality and how we dictate our life and our values and our morals and set the standard for that stuff. I kind of like, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, man, like nobody's having those experiences now.
No, it's kind of crazy. And if they do, they're crazy. They're doctors.
Yeah, they're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like L. Ron Hubbard, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like,
Scientology.
Yeah. Why is he written off? Just because we have, most people are relying on books that were written thousands and thousands of years ago that nobody could question it. Yeah. And you got this dude that just fucking said, nope, this is actually how it went down, and he's new age, right? So, I mean, not to get too much into that, like I'm indifferent. However people want to conduct their lives or, their religion and faith and all that stuff, I support you, and hey, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But like, you got to kind of think about that stuff a little bit.
You kind of got to think about that. That's great.
I don't know.
Well, dude, back to the explorers and not knowing what they're doing. Have I ever told you this story? My mom dropped me off in the middle of the wilderness and said, okay, survive for 3 days in a row.
What?
Yeah, dude. I was 12 years old. She dropped me and my stepbrother off in the middle of the woods. I brought no water. I brought a knife. I brought no tent. And I was gonna build myself a little hut. I was going to catch rabbits. I was going to start a fire from scratch. Bro, I was 12 years old. Okay. First of all, my mom, I was the one that convinced her to do this. I was watching a lot of Man vs. Wild and Bear Grylls at the time. Yep. And dude, every day I would get off of school. I'd come home and I would watch Bear Grylls freaking like cut open a camel, get inside and stay inside its body for warmth. It was nuts. I was like, and I thought for sure I could do everything he did. So I found this spot in the middle of nowhere on Google Maps. And I was like, Mom, drop me off right here. And she's like, no, we're definitely not going to do that. And I was like, Mom, I need to. And I brought my 10-year-old brother. And she's like, all right, like, just keep your phone, like, make sure it's charged, blah, blah, blah. And dude, we lasted less than 12 hours. So we got dropped off around 4 p.m. I tried to start a fire. Everything was wet. Not going to happen. Tried to find a place to make a little bed area. Fire ants everywhere.
Oh
We tried to
no.
go through to the water because I brought a fishing pole. I was going to try and catch fish. Don't know how I was going to cook it. And it was just swamp and mud. No way I was ever going to even get there to catch anything. And then as soon as it started to get a little bit dark, mosquitoes everywhere. Just like hordes of them, dude. And we ended up going, we found this river that wound and it would make these S patterns. And somehow we got in between, like if the S was like this, we ended up in this little cul-de-sac. And so from 9 p.m. to 2 in the morning, we're just looking for ways to get out, walking through this swamp. And I just keep hitting the river. And I knew for sure that we could probably cross the river, but I was like, it's midnight. I've got my brother. I'm not trying to risk that right now. And so for 3 hours, we're walking in this probably no bigger than a football field area. And we finally get to this cornfield and get out, find a road. And we sleep until maybe like 4 a.m. And every hour I'm woken up by bugs and spiders and I'm calling my mom, but she's like asleep. And I wake her up at 6 a.m. finally. I'm just like, Mom, you have to come get us. This was a mistake.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. And she rubbed it in. She's like, I told you this was a terrible idea.
You brought did you bring any food?
No,
Nothing?
nothing. No food, no water.
Oh my gosh. That's so wild. You said 3 days. We got it.
Not even close.
Man. Oh, that's so good. Man, and your mom just letting you be out there too. And she wasn't picking up her phone. Like, she was just like, you're like, no, this is serious.
Yeah, this is early 2000s, bro. I respect her for it. I mean, she dropped us off in a safe area, and like our city was pretty fine. But she was probably just like, I need to talk to her about it because I can only imagine she's like, these little idiots. They have no idea. Let's let them learn a lesson.
Yeah, I used to do stuff like that too. I was big into like the movie Band of Brothers and like Saving Private Ryan and stuff. And so me and my buddy would go play Army out in the back of the woods. And we would just go venture off, but we'd bring a little like kerosene heater or whatever, like you'd get like the camping ones. Yeah. And then we'd bring like Campbell's chicken noodle soup and stuff. And so we'd go out there and play Army, and then we would like eat our MREs. You know, we'd do that stuff. We'd be out there all day, and it was always cold. And it was fun though. And I think that's kind of where I grew a little bit of like thick skin, being uncomfortable, you know, just kind of existing in that. But that's so cool to be able to do those kind of things. Like, I'm surprised. Did you do like Boy Scouts or anything?
No,
growing up, or none of that?
No. I thought they were for losers. Yeah.
Yeah. I would go,
but
no. Yeah. I kind of had the same feeling too. I would go to some Boy Scout meetings with my friend. I just never really got into it. I wasn't too excited about it. But there's nothing like just walking out into like the unknown and just figuring it out. You know, especially as a kid. Especially as a kid. I can't tell you how many times that we would, you know, that creek I told you about, we'd float down. We'd usually walk it. We would just like go back into my, like a back part of my neighborhood, go right to the creek, and we'd just start going and just see what the hell we found. And like so many times, it happened like probably 3 or 4 times. We would be out there for like 7-8 hours. The sun would start to sit. And we're like, we got to get home. We don't know where we're at. Yeah. So we go find a house, knock on their door, and then ask them if they could drive us home. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Like that's the stuff, man. That's what makes life fun. And I feel like you do a lot of that. Like, what was your most recent trip you went on? Didn't you just go to like a different country recently?
Went to Japan and then the Philippines before that. Yeah.
Yeah. What was Japan about? Was that just a planned trip? You had a couple destinations you want to see?
Or? It was like a Saturday in September, and all my boys we were in a room. I was like, guys, tickets to Japan, I just randomly looked it up, were $200. I was like, we need to go. And everyone was like, yeah, that sounds good, blah, blah, let's do it. And I was like, all right, let's get our tickets right now. And so they're like, oh, well, maybe we should check my schedule. I was like, nah, let's just do it. And they're like, all right. And so I go around the room and I set up their accounts. I buy all of their tickets and I have them Venmo me the money because everyone says they're down, but then like the months go by, you don't get your ticket, the whole thing. I was like, nah, you need to get your ticket tonight. And so I got all my boys, and then we found a hotel to ski lift in Japan. in Nagano, where our hotel is like across 25 feet from the lift. And so we wake up, we hit the slopes, we come back, we chill, we get lunch, and we do it again. It's great. I love Japan. My favorite country.
Dude, that's so cool. Yeah, I went to Japan to go visit my friend. Like that was one thing I did whenever I first got out of the military and I started making money for myself and being in charge of my schedule. I went to go visit all of my buddies that were stationed abroad.
Yeah.
And so I only had 2 at the time. So all of my buddies, 2 guys. So went to Italy. That was a lot of fun. And then went to Japan as well. And Japan's super crazy, bro. Like I remember like it was dope because I got first class tickets there. I worked for American Airlines at the time.
That's right.
And I did a non-rev flight, and they had this new airplane, the 787, and it was flying over there like half empty, and there was nobody in first class. So there was a couple of other employees at the airlines that were there, and I heard them talking up front, and they're like, they're moving us to first class. I was like, oh shit. So that was awesome. And if you've ever flown first class, like on an international trip, man, it's a game changer. Like you almost have to do it if you've done it once, like every time. And so got like a great night's sleep, woke up, and I'm in Japan. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. You step out, dude. Like nothing looks familiar.
No.
Like not like all the signs, all like everything's in just a foreign language. Like it looks like just like hyper what is it? Hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics. Yeah, dude.
Hieroglyphics. I haven't said that word in a while. That's why I stumbled over it. But dude, it's like everything, it looks like you're on a different planet. That's the only way I could describe it. I'm like, I'm on Mars. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
The culture shock of it. Yeah. What tripped me out about Japan too is they do like intercom announcements throughout the day for everybody. I don't know if they did that in the part of town you were in, but I just remember like every day around 5 they would like make an announcement over the speakers, and I think it was like the official end of the workday. And it was weird. It just felt weird. And like everybody that worked a trade job had a different color jumpsuit. So like if you're an electrician, you wear a different jumpsuit. If you're the trash man, you have like a blue jumpsuit. And it was just such a culture shock. It was crazy. I found out Google Translate is super helpful there. Things like that. Yeah. How did you navigate the landscape? Like just getting around.
Dude, Hawaii, dude, just Googled. We just like, first couple days we didn't know what we were doing. And then after a while, you just kind of get the hang of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, just figuring it out. It's something that like I've always appreciated about you is just like the willingness just to fucking go for it. Like, it's like healthy peer pressure, but like you don't want to do it by yourself. Like that's one thing. Like like how many things have you done like that by yourself? Probably not a lot, right?
No, dude, that's one thing I've learned about myself is I just enjoy doing cool things with my friends. And that's all I want to do for the rest of my life. If I live till 100, I want to do that for 70 more years. Just want to do crazy experiences with my boys.
Yeah.
And I'm good. I'm happy.
Man, that's a life worth living. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
Feels like it. Yeah. It's the right move. Cause like, I've always thought that like in my head, I notice when I start to get comfortable, I have to tell myself comfort is the enemy of success. And like, if you want to have a successful, fulfilling life, you gotta be in the game, get those chips in, like you're saying, and like peer pressure your buddies of like, dude, we got a discount on flights, like no excuses. Everybody can afford $200. Yeah. Let's go. Just book it, lock it in. That's the fun part. Yeah.
Is that the pod, dude? Cause that's a great way to end.
I like it, man. That's fun. I think that was a good one.
Hell yeah. That was great.